bring the health committee meeting to order at 9 a.m. July 7th, 2020. Would you please call the roll?
Whitlow,
Here.
Curtis.
Here.
Barr,
Here.
Hoganhour,
Present.
Doobie. Here. Awful.
Here. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second? Second, Whitlow. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, everyone should have gotten the claims and the reports in their email. We're sending them out like that now to save on paper and ink. So if you didn't get them, she does have a copy here if you want to look at it.
You got to invest in one,
Did you
Roger.
get one in the mail?
You got to invest in one.
I can have Lacey put one in the mail to you also.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to go through that, Roger? We're just gonna do the claims for animal control. Are we ready to move on, Roger, or still want to look at it? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the claims?
Moved.
Second? Second?
I'll second. It doesn't matter.
All right, do you have any comments? Discussion on this? Okay, call roll, please.
Whitlow,
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Hoganhour,
Yes.
Doobie.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes. All right, motion carries. May I have, is there any public comments today? All right, Dr. Youssef will have
You want to sit down here so I can?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, everybody. So for the last month, we received one bat. It came back negative for rabies, 7 dogs and 3 cats. And unfortunately, this morning we got like not a very good news from the Vermilion County. We used to transfer dogs and cats to them. They asked us to do the FIV test for cats and heartworm test for dogs on our expenses. The county has to pay for that, which is gonna be, I'm sorry to say that, crazy to do something like that, because we give them rabies December free for the dogs and flying December free for cats. So now they're asking like heartworm test, which is almost $40 for each dog, and the FIV for cats almost like $45, $50. So I'm gonna talk to the director today. We run already, they asked us to run one of the cases, I think a couple of weeks ago about a cat, FIV. I ran it at the clinic. They said they're gonna send a check. And then suddenly they came up with this one. They said, the test you run it at your clinic, the county has to pay for that. And I don't think this is fair. So I don't know, we gonna try to find another shelter, or maybe I will talk to them to see what's the point about running more tests and we have to pay for that. Because anyone adopt a dog, he has to pay for that, or it should be paid already, but has to be done by the shelter, not by us. So this is one thing. The other thing is we had a meeting, me and Linda, with the state attorney, and we discussed like a couple of cases about people have their dogs at large, like, bothering the neighbors, especially the kids, and we kept give them tickets, and they don't pay for the tickets, and the dogs still have the cases continue the same thing, and Linda going back and forth, tickets and back and forth. So we talked to the city attorney, what's the next step we need to do, because they don't pay the tickets, they don't go to the courts, they just challenge everybody. So the next step will take, if we see the dog outside, we'll take it to my facility, and they're not gonna see it again, unless, have a permission from the city attorney. Because we cannot allow, people walking in the street, very scared from this area, or whatever, because the dog is having fun outside. Other thing, was like a case, I think on Facebook. So we had a history with this specific guy, and I sent you some explanation yesterday. I'm not gonna mention names, but Linda has some experience about this situation, and me too. Last winter, he called me many times, text messaged me many times about a rabbit outside in a cage, and he has heat, he has water, he has food, but he doesn't like the rabbit to be outside. I sent the animal officer 2 times to check on the rabbit, talk to the owner. Everything was absolutely fine. We're following the standard of the Department of Agriculture. Rabbit can have this type of temperature, he can be fine. And he was fine, absolutely happy and fine. I think, in my opinion, so this case, almost the same thing. Linda went twice to check on the address he gave her, and every time it's not a real address, it's a wrong address, no dogs there. A police officer went twice, and every time reported that I cannot see any dog outside. So I cannot, I think, as a logic thing, I cannot let somebody exhaust our resources, our time, for something fake like this. If you have a case, I give an example. Yesterday, a lady called me, she said there's a dog outside in a very hot environment, no food, no water, and I feel bad for this dog. So I said, okay, we're gonna send Linda right away. And then she called me back, I called her back. I said, Linda, in her way. She said, okay, you know what, I brought some ice. The dog should be fine. I said, no, we have to investigate, because this is a serious thing. Linda went there, she called me back. She said, the owner is not there, the dog outside. What can I do? I said, bring the dog to the clinic. I'm not gonna wait till the dog will die and, be in a very bad situation like this. We called the lady back, and she was so happy. So this type of serious cases we have to deal with, but I cannot go for a case and you don't see any dogs there. Or he said cats at large. Cats can run very fast. We go there, we don't find anything. So that's my explanation for what's going on now at this point. And if anybody has any question about this specific thing, that's why Linda is here today, because she is the one dealing with this situation.
Good.
I just have one comment. I just caution you, be careful on responses on Facebook.
Okay.
And I understand you were getting attacked, and I understand that. I get it.
Yeah.
But believe me.
I did, I
If
put back off, I did, I
Okay.
tried to back off.
Because, and I understand how hard it is, because there's many times that I want to say things. So I just wanted to kind of caution. And believe me, I understand how hard it is, particularly if you're being attacked. I get it. But, I'm like, oh, I hope this stops. So, but I do get it. And then I've got a question for you
Yes,
too. When, I understand about as far as taking dogs at large and all that, but how many times before you're going to take the dog? Like 3 times
Oh.
or what, do you know, or?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, we have to take permission from the state attorney, because this is a legal issue. But some cases, and I give you 2 examples. The first one was the last night actually, so the state attorney office is closed, and I have to take an action. I'm not gonna, like I said, leave the dog like this in this very hot weather in a metal cage, it's very hot. Another case, like a dog bit a child on the face. We took the child into the hospital for surgery, and we need to take the dog and euthanize the dog, send the head to the lab to see if this is has rabies or not.
Sure.
Because it's not fair for the child, to have rabies vaccine while he's going for surgery or fixing his face. The state attorney, again, back and forth talking to him till 5 o'clock coming, and then he has to go home. And this is the time I had to take a decision about, I have to go to the dog back.
No, I get that. I
Yeah.
thought you mentioned about dogs running wild and people not paying the tickets and all that.
Right.
And you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Like how many chances do they
How
get, I
many?
guess, before you
Yeah.
would take a dog in those instances?
Right, so I want to tell you one thing, and we don't act aggressively with any case. We usually talk to the people and once, twice, and then we start to give tickets. So we have a doorknob, sign. It says I have been here and please take care of your dog, something like that. And then no response. The neighbor will take pictures, send it to us, so we go back again and give the ticket. Because again, you have to understand that I have a budget. I cannot send Linda back and forth.
Oh, believe me, we
Yeah.
don't want you sending Linda
Right.
back and forth. That's for sure.
Right, so and when we reach to the point that, okay, you know what, it's not working, this is the time we meet with the state attorney, he give us the permission to do 1, 2, 3. Because he back up our back, legally.
Sure, and that's what I was,
Right.
so I was just curious at what point
Right.
does it become?
And you believe it or not, the lady came to my facility talking to me, and I talked to her, and she convinced 100%. She said, "I'm sorry, and I'm not gonna do this again." And actually, she's scheduled for castration, to fix her dog, stuff like that. She was turned 180 degrees when we keep talking, sending tickets and stuff like that. So hopefully, we're not gonna have any chance to take the her dog away from her. Yeah.
Any more questions? Well, thank you, Dr.
Oh, thank you very much.
Report.
Have a nice day.
Okay, we're gonna hear from Dee Shipper with the Health Department, please.
Okay, well, while Dr. Yusuf is still here, I would like to thank him. We've had some really wild bat cases, cat cases, a raccoon case.
Yeah.
And every time I call Dr. Yusuf, he always answers my phone call or calls me back immediately. There is a really good communication system between our health department and Dr. Yusuf, and I appreciate that. And if I ask him to euthanize an animal because we want to send this specimen off, he takes care of it immediately. And I know that he's also got a private practice, but he tends to respond very quickly to anything that the health department asks, and I am very grateful. I want to publicly acknowledge that.
It's my job. Thank you very much.
Very quick.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Because we really have had some wild cases lately with animals. Especially, if people are bitten, that's when the health department becomes involved anytime there's a fight. And the rabies vaccine has become so expensive. The average rabies vaccine now is over $20,000 for the series. And that's a lot of money for people to have to come up with. Sometimes insurance will cover it, sometimes insurance will not cover it. And if we can get the animal processed and tested, that will save that person from going through the rabies post-exposure prophylaxis as well as the money. And there's always some side effects with that, so, that's super important. So I just wanted to acknowledge that while he was here.
How do they justify the cost of that?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. It has a very, very, very short shelf life. So I think a lot of those doses that are prepared and waiting, end up,
Generally, you think of it as research things, but this is something that's been around forever, the vaccine.
right,
You wonder, just curious. That's all
why,
I'm-
yeah, I don't know. If I had to guess, and this is just a guess, it's because the shelf life is so short that they end up having to discard so many doses all the time that you're actually paying for your unexpired doses and probably a whole bunch of expired ones too, because they have to keep it on hand. And the shelf life for that is extremely short. But that, like I said, that's just a guess, but, yeah, it's tremendously expensive. Not to mention that you have to get an immunoglobulin shot with it, and that's very expensive. So, there are programs, Jed, through the state, where I can apply to help people and get a state supplied vaccine. And, whenever we have requested that for people, the state IDPH has sent us the vaccine. Yeah, so let me hand out our,
You get it.
normal sheets. Oh, thanks, Eric. There you go. So I didn't bring a grants and contracts update. You know, the end of the state fiscal year for all of our grants and contracts was June 30th. So on July 1st, we started with brand new. I will tell you all, I only have 2 grant applications that have been filled out for all of our grants for this year. So the state is way behind because they've been focusing on COVID. So we don't have a lot of our grant applications to fill out yet. What they are doing is sending us an amendment for the old ones and extending them until the new ones come out. So we're okay, and we know that the grants will be in place, and they have sent us, emails indicating that all of the grants, when they do come out, will be retroactive to July 1st. But, yeah, I'm afraid that they're all gonna come in at once. Like Vision and Hearing came in last week, and I had 2 days to write it, It's like, come on, seriously, what if somebody's on vacation? So, it's kind of crazy. But we will get them done, and we'll, get that taken care of. Okay, so on the program summary report that Eric just handed out to you, you can see that, April and May, we didn't do any regular food sanitation inspections, but now we're back to it in June. And we're back to, doing our regular environmental health stuff, as well as our communicable disease stuff. So we did 27 water sample kits in June, so the numbers are coming back up to where they should be. Our well numbers are coming back up for inspections, for community surveys, for permits for new wells, permits for sealed wells, they're coming back. So we're getting kind of back to trying to do our regular duties as well as all the COVID stuff. It's a lot of work right now. Just trying to do both at the same time, but we're getting them done. You can tell that we've been doing the mosquito sampling for West Nile virus. Eric, you'd be able to answer this. We have not had any positive, I know that we have not had any positive samples in Maricopa County yet. Do you know how many surrounding counties have had positives?
I'm sorry, I do not.
That's okay. I just wondered if anybody did. Usually I stay up on that, but right now we've been so focused on COVID that I'm not staying up with what's going on with West Nile virus in surrounding counties. Now, obviously, if we have a positive sample, we're going to address that. But we haven't, so thank God for that, right? Anybody have any questions on the community health portion of those or any of those numbers? Environmental health, community health. So at the end of the month, we ended June with 157 cases of COVID-19, and currently we are at 168 cases. And we'll come back to that, and we'll talk about COVID here in a little bit, but we've also seen, some increases in other numbers. If you look at gonorrhea, it's very rare for us to have a little spike like that with gonorrhea, but we're having a gonorrhea spike. So we're getting that addressed. As far as the 3 rabies, in June, we had 2 negative bats and a negative cat. We did open our doors back up a week ago Friday. We were taking, to protect the people, because our waiting room's so small, and we only have about six seats in our waiting room. So we've been open the whole time. We've been doing immunizations the whole time, especially our 2-month-olds who have no protection against any kind of communicable disease. So we've always been doing those immunizations and catching kids up that were behind and so forth. But we've been doing everything by appointment just to make sure that we kept families in our waiting room separated. So we spaced out our appointments far enough that we kept them separated. But we did unlock our doors and now are taking walk-ins and are not limiting that. But if we do have too many people in the waiting room, we have seating out in the hallway. So we do have them sit out in the hallway. So we're still doing it. We're just not as stringent on that right now because we wanted people to be able to walk in if they needed to. We had a sign on the door with our number, and so if we had to walk in, like say a doctor's office sent somebody over for a tetanus shot. They could call the number and the nurse would go to the door and open it up and let them in and give them the tetanus shot. But now we just have the door open. So I wanted to make you aware of that. We've done lots of, under senior services, you can see that our total clients on services right now is 188. So our numbers are up a little bit. But besides that, we also have the senior services, emergency senior services grant that is able to provide groceries for anyone ages 60 or older, and they don't have to be on our community care program. In other words, there's no eligibility requirements. So that program is open to anybody who's 60 or older who could use some help buying their groceries. Now when we got that grant, it was for 2 months, it was through June 30th. But we did receive a grant application and I did submit it, and the Illinois Department of Aging is going to continue that program for another year. So if you know of anyone who is over the age of 60 who could use some help buying their groceries during COVID, during this pandemic, anyone, they don't have to have eligibility requirements. Anyone who could use some help, refer them to the health department. And we can help with that. So we've been doing a lot, our staff's been literally doing a lot of grocery shopping and delivering groceries as well.
All they have to do is contact you.
That's all they have to do is contact us. Mm-hmm. And the number is 815-432-2483, and they can ask for Emily Shea. She's our Director of Senior Services, and Emily will get their name, their address, their date of birth to prove that they're over 60, and a grocery list from them. And it is that simple. If they're under the age of 60 and are in isolation or quarantine because of COVID, then by law, the health department has to provide for their needs. So we do, if we have somebody who the whole family's quarantined, nobody can leave to go get groceries, right? Well, if you're quarantined for 2 weeks, you're gonna have milk and stuff like that, especially if you have kids. So we do that grocery shopping too, and we use the COVID crisis grant for that. So we've been provided grant funding to pay for that. So, any questions about the summary report programs? Okay, then Eric and I thought what we do today is we just have a Q&A. What do you want to ask us about COVID? We talk about it so much every day, all day.
Is that on the rise?
I was joking that Sunday I had 15 phone calls from public people asking questions, and I did. I mean, that, you know.
Is it on the rise in Iroquois County now again, or?
Well, yesterday we had 6 more cases added. We had a couple weeks of lull where we didn't see very many cases, maybe some lots of days 0, 1 or 2. Now we're up to seeing, you know, bigger numbers again. We don't know whether this will continue or not. But it stands to reason that as people become more comfortable and practice less precautions, we are going to see higher numbers. That's human nature, and we're going to see it. I hope that we don't see the huge spikes like we're seeing in southern counties, or, you know, in southern states. I hope that doesn't happen in Illinois. It could, but I'm hoping that we've already had our big peak in that. We're not going to go back to that. We do know that with any type of communicable disease, you always see a second wave. We don't know when that's going to come. We don't know how long that will take. If you had asked me a few months ago, I would have told you that it would be in the fall after school starts. But I don't know that. That's just a guess. So we'll see what happens. But
Can you explain the mutation of this virus? How does something like that? Because I've heard other people talk about mutation, but I'm not real clear on that.
okay, so with any kind of virus or bacteria, you've all heard the term survival of the fittest and how things in your mutate, how things in your environment mutate to stay alive. The goal of that virus is to stay alive and spread, right? So as viruses try to survive, they become more resistant to temperature. They become more resistant to all kinds of environmental factors. Sometimes these viruses, as they mutate, they develop very thick outer wall cells to protect that virus. So it's not as fragile, it's not as easily killed by cleaners, it's not as easily manipulated. So we know that happens with virus and bacteria over time. One of the things that we feared right at the beginning of this was that we would see rapid spread of COVID-19. And you know, with rapid spread comes rapid mutation. And that was one of our big fears. I don't think we've seen that, at least locally. I can tell you that the cases that we saw 2-3 months ago, the people had much more significant signs and symptoms than we're seeing now. We're seeing a lot more people that are asymptomatic, but you have to keep this in mind. Viruses do one of 2 things when they spread. They either mutate and become stronger, or as they spread from person to person to person, they become weaker. One of those 2 things is going to happen. I personally cannot verify this, but in my opinion as a public health administrator, I think we're seeing the virus get weaker as it spreads person to person. Only because the people who are testing positive aren't as sick as they were 2-3 months ago, and that's in general. Now, of course, we're still seeing people who are very ill, okay? But not everyone is very ill. But this is the key to that, and this is something everybody needs to think about. When we first started testing people, we were only testing the hospitalized people. We were only testing those who were sick enough to go to the hospital. And in order to be tested, every doctor's office and every hospital had to call our health department to get an authorization code for testing in order for it to be sent to the state lab. Because at that time, the only people that were doing the testing was the state lab. Then it opened up to people who were seen in physicians' offices, who were sick enough to go to the doctor. Then it opened up to people who were sick enough to go to the doctor, or healthcare workers. Then it opened up to people in congregate settings like long-term care facilities. Now it's open to the public. Anybody can go get tested. So the more testing that you do, the more positives you're gonna find. And the more people that you're gonna find that didn't have to go be hospitalized. So, you know, that's a contributing factor in all that. So of course, we're gonna see people who are not as ill. So, you know, there's a lot of play behind the scenes on how to evaluate whether this virus is actually mutating and getting stronger, or whether it's getting weaker as it passes person to person. And to be honest with you, your guess really is as good as mine. You know, I really think it's getting weaker, but I can't guarantee that. And at any given moment, a virus can mutate, and we could see some bad strains in the area. That could happen. So that's one of the reasons that we continue to preach precautions. You know, we continue to preach social distancing, masks, hand washing, all those things that you can do to protect yourself and the people around you. And we're going to continue to do that until the pandemic, until we don't see cases anymore, because that's our job. What other questions do you have about COVID, or anything related to COVID? Yeah.
I think some of the data that you've got here is very helpful for the board members and also helpful for the general public. But there's one suggestion I would make. Every day when you report the cases, you list them by age groups. If you summarize that data, I think that would give people a much more accurate picture that this isn't just something that's affecting people 60 years old and older.
Right. And that's a really good point.
In fact, the majority of cases in this county have been in the 30, 40, and 50 age group, because I've kept track of it.
Yeah.
And you have people under 10 years old even that have gotten it. So I think people need to know that it isn't just one group of people that's getting this, at least in this county.
A good point, John. And we've been talking about doing that for weeks now. And I think starting next Monday, we're gonna change how we report cases. I think we'll start using some charts and graphs so that people can see it better. We've been saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over, but I think we're just gonna start reporting. I think he's doing that with charts and graphs, you know, or pie charts or whatever. I think that would be a good visualization. So I think we'll try that. If we get tore up on Facebook, then we'll try something different. But we'll go from there.
What's the deal on the taverns and the restaurants? Are they open back up?
They are, and you know, so there isn't a lot of talk about it in the media, but we might as well talk about it. You know that last Friday, things changed for the state of Illinois. Mr. DeVores, who was representing Darren Bailey, won that lawsuit on behalf of all citizens in the state of Illinois. So the state of Illinois, the gubernatorial executive orders were ruled by the court as invalid after the first 30 days. That means after April 8th, and the executive orders were ruled invalid. That doesn't change things for our health department, because it may change things for businesses or for, you know, the general public and you know, that sort of thing, but it doesn't really change anything for the health department. We're still the health department. We're still gonna recommend that you not have groups of over 50. We're still gonna, because we're still in a pandemic. We haven't been enforcing those things anyway, and you're all aware that we have not shut down businesses. We have not, you know, done anything that we thought would damage our own economy. And at the same time, we're still giving guidance to anybody who will listen. And most of the businesses in Iroquois County have been super cooperative. They call us and say, okay, look, we don't want to make people sick. We don't want to be sued. We don't want our business tied to an outbreak. So you saw on this list that we listed the number of outbreaks as well. So we currently have 2 outbreaks in Iroquois County right now. One's associated with a business and one's associated with a long-term care facility. nobody wants their name tied to that, okay? So,
You need to define an outbreak.
an outbreak is more than two, is
According
two
to
or
my
more.
According to my healthcare administrator, it's one case.
Well,
An outbreak is one case.
an outbreak is one case, but an outbreak doesn't, for us, doesn't go into ORS, the outbreak reporting system, unless we have two,
Okay, awesome.
okay? And the one case, it's a one case in a, like for long-term care, it's one case in a resident. But if you have one case in a staff member, that's not an outbreak. So
Correct.
the rules are different. We try not to get into that too much because trying to explain that to everybody and then keeping it separate from how many staff and how many,
No, I understand.
yeah.
The definition of an outbreak,
Is
if you
one.
say outbreak, everybody thinks, oh, Jesus, it's 50 cases.
Yeah.
So,
No, we do have an outbreak that has 50 cases associated with it.
I understand.
We do. But we also have a business that has, quite a bit too.
And does the business get closed down?
No, but the business, and neither does the long-term care facility, obviously. But what happens is, when we have a business that's tied with that, we spend extra time. So let me back that up a little. Anytime that you have somebody that tests positive, we notify their employer. We give them a letter to give to their employer, but we do a follow-up phone call to make sure that they gave the letter to the employer, okay? And then we provide the employer with a low-risk letter that they can send out to every employee. It just says that they're at low risk, that someone within their business tested positive, and if they have not been named as somebody who has had direct, identified, known contact with that person. If they do, then they're placed under quarantine, right? If they don't, then they're given this information in this low risk letter that tells them what signs and symptoms to watch for, so that they know when to seek medical attention or go to their doctor, okay? It also makes them aware of what they need to do to clean and all that other kind of stuff. So we do all that. But with the businesses where we have, multiple employees that have become ill, or tested positive, we go in and we make specific recommendations, about this needs to be 6 feet apart from this. You need to have this cleaning done every shift. You need to, protect these people, because we assume that there's a possibility that other people there have it and are asymptomatic and just haven't gone to be tested. So we give them extra guidance and extra help, and we offer them things, to help them. We give them, tympanic thermometers, touchless thermometers, so that they can check everybody's temperature when they're coming in to work. We give them masks if they need masks. We give them, whatever. We try to help them. That's our job, is to help them prevent the spread of this within, further spread within their business. But we know we don't close the business down.
Last month, the county board approved the plan that Eric Stacy developed in the case of the governor's recommendation for rule to be invalid.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that the policy that the health department is implementing go along or mirror that plan?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Everybody really can look at that plan and get
And
a
know.
pretty good idea
Yes.
of what to do.
Yeah. I get anywhere from, and honestly, I probably get anywhere from 15 to 50 phone calls a day from people asking questions. Their neighbor is positive. They were with them on this at this time. They rolled down their car window and waved at them. Are they, should they go get tested? I get just unbelievable amount of phone calls. I probably had 15 phone calls on Sunday just regarding people who are going to be traveling, because it's summertime and they have vacation plans. They have non-refundable tickets, and they wanted to know what Mayor Lori Lightfoot is requiring of Chicago residents applies to them. Do they have to quarantine when they come back from Florida? I keep explaining to everybody, Mayor Lori Lightfoot is in charge of the residents of the city of Chicago. That does not affect Iroquois County in any way, shape, or form. and know that health
Thank
department.
goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and our health department
Yeah.
is never going to quarantine, and I've explained this to as many people as I can, this is something that I just keep repeating over and over. The health department never, under any circumstances, quarantines the general population, ever. We only have jurisdictional authority to quarantine, to isolate someone who tests positive and quarantine their direct known identified contacts. That's it. And we ask for their voluntary cooperation. If they don't cooperate voluntarily, then I will seek a court order. And, you know, we've done that in the past with a TB case. One time we sought a court order because we wanted to keep that person that would stay at home, you know. Those things we would do. Those are stuff that we're good at doing. We know how to do it, we know, you know. And the people who are under isolation actually are isolated for a shorter period of time than the people who are under quarantine. Because you have to remember, those people have already tested positive or have already been started, you know, had signs and symptoms. They've been through that 14-day incubation period, okay? And for some of them, it's less than that, it's 5 or 7 days or whatever, however long it took them to get sick from when they were exposed. But they've been through that period. So the typical person in isolation will be in isolation for a minimum of 10 days. And then they have to be 72 hours fever-free, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. The person in quarantine has to be in quarantine for a minimum of 14 days. Now get this is the important part that people miss. 14 days after their last exposure to the person who has tested positive. So let's say you live in the household with that person. Your quarantine period of 14 days doesn't start until that person is released from their isolation of 10 days. So those people who live in the same household are literally under quarantine for 24 days or more. That's a long time to trap somebody in their house. Legally, they're allowed to leave their home to seek medical attention. That is why we at the health department make sure they have their groceries, get them anything they need. They need toilet paper, we drop it off at their house. They need laundry detergent, we make sure that they've got it. You know, we hurt for these people. That is a tough. That's not easy. They can go outside and mow. They can stay on their property. They just can't go expose other people. And most of the people that we have seen have been extremely cooperative. Now, we've had a few challenges. We've had some that are just challenges. But we, for the most part, generally, people who know that someone in their household has tested positive, they don't want to make other people sick. They don't want that for other people. So, for the most part, they're very cooperative. And we monitor them every day, you know. So every day they have to answer this series of questions, and then they have to talk to one of my nurses. And some of them look forward to those phone calls, and some of them don't. Some of them want the questions, and they want to get off with them. And I once want to tell my nurses about every little ache and pain they've had. So it can be challenging.
Any other questions? Do you have any more to report on here?
If I could have a chance to tell you about some of the data that I passed out to you. The stapled packet looks like this. Sorry. Looks like this. This is data that we track locally. It includes confirmed, recovered, deaths, and remaining cases, both for globally in the United States, in the state of Illinois, and Iroquois County. And this is public information that we compile. We used to do this every day, now I do it about 2 or 3 times a week. So, and this is starting back in February, late February, we started tracking this information. If you flip to the Illinois page, a chart that looks like this, you notice some of these lines are a little tricky. Up to a point, the state of Illinois was not reporting recovery numbers, and they started reporting a recovery percentage. So by doing some math, developed a simple formula. By doing some math, I'm able to come up with a recovery number. So that's why there's that oddity. And one of the first questions was, where is your Clay County sitting at? Well, that's the back of the packet. And you can see the blue line, that's the confirmed cases. That line will never go down. The gray line at the bottom, that's our deaths. We're sitting at 5. The red line, that's our recoveries, or releases from isolation. The yellow or orange, whatever color you may call that, that is our remaining cases, those that have not recovered or died. You can see where we're at with that. We had a big spike. Looks like
You mean by
middle of May.
remaining confirmed cases, is that what that means?
Yes, they have been confirmed, positive.
And they remain in isolation. When we say remain, they have not been released from isolation.
So we had a big spike in May, and we've come down, and looking at the data, we were at 16, and that's where we're at now. Other charts, this came straight from the CDC. This is the United States. This is new cases per day. So that's a little bit of a different information, a little different piece of data. See how we're still climbing in the United States, but the same type of information for the state of Illinois. We had a big spike back in May, and we're coming down. So the fact could go up. Just a comparison between the United States and Illinois.
And let's be honest, as much as many people, including myself, then nobody wants to have the government give you more regulations and restrictions, right? Nobody likes that, okay? They worked. They did work. Because Illinois' numbers keep going down, while states who opened up way too soon in the South are seeing huge spikes now. If that doesn't convince you, you don't want to see it. You just flat out don't want to see it. And there's a lot of people that don't want to see it. But that's the truth. What Illinois did work. I do think that there are some unintended consequences of that with the businesses and the economy, and I think that's super unfortunate. But I do think that our numbers are going down because of some of the restrictions, and that's a fact. The other thing I want to point out to you is that we have had. So when I talk to you about the isolation periods and the incubation periods, I want to point out to you, we have a lot of people. We've had people who have literally remained in isolation because they tested positive. We've had people that remained in isolation for 40 days because they could not stay fever-free, or because their symptoms took that long to recover. So when I talk to you about those numbers, those are the average, but please note that there are a lot, not everybody gets over this in 10 days, okay? And sometimes the lasting effects on people really are very severe. So it is something that we do need to take seriously, So I think that's important to note. So yeah, and Kevin had a great point. When we say remaining, we assume everybody knows what we mean, but you guys probably don't. So those are the people that remain in isolation. Cool. The other thing too that a lot of people don't realize is that out of the 168 cases that we've had, those people have, all have a household that's quarantined with them, right? The people who are under quarantine, who become ill during quarantine, we switch them over from quarantine to isolation, but we do not count them in our count. Those 168 are only laboratory confirmed cases. If we have, let's say that we have a household of 5 people and dad tests positive, and we've got to isolate mom and the 3 kids, okay? Maybe one of the kids gets sick, maybe mom gets sick. We do not ask them to go get tested. they're under quarantine. We only want them to leave their home if they're gonna seek medical attention, not to just go get tested because we're curious. Because if they become sick during quarantine, we already know what they have, right? We know. So why go expose a healthcare worker? Why go have them leave the house, and potentially, it's too easy to stop at a gas station and talk chit chat with your neighbor or whatever. Why put that at rest? Why waste resources? Because, the testing supplies are, now it's getting to the point where we've lots of testing supplies, but early on, we were struggling to get them. For every 100 kids I'd order, I'd get 10 in, So at one point in time, we were down to 160 kids in the entire county, and I canvassed everybody. So why waste those resources? So so a lot of those people, we know our cases, but they're not counted in this 168 because we didn't have them go get tested. That 168 does not represent the true amount of cases that we have. Those are only laboratory confirmed cases. We know we've had a lot more cases, a lot more cases.
Didn't know that. Okay. Thank you, Dee.
You're welcome.
Let's see, Chairman, did you have something you wanted to say before I do this?
Regarding the county board meeting a week from today, the plan right now is to have it out at the highway department again. As you know, it's weather forecast, it's gonna be pretty warm. And so the question would be, how many of you people would be in favor of starting the meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning instead of the usual 9?
I'm all for that.
You can start at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Not
8 o'clock is about the earliest that we can get started because Joel has to move his equipment out of there and get things set up. So he's gonna have to have people coming a little early to get that done as well. But he's agreeable to having us to be able to start at 8 o'clock, and I thought that would be something that would work out to everybody's advantage. As far as anything else goes, your clothing, dressing, whatever you're comfortable with and the weather is acceptable, as long as you don't go too far.
No bikini,
Yeah, right.
No speedo for you.
That's not a problem.
All right, so 8 o'clock then.
Right now, I think we can figure on that. Everybody on the management committee was in favor of it yesterday. I really have not encountered anybody that is opposed to that. And we still are gonna have the call-in feature, so if there is somebody that for some reason or other can't make it or has a problem, they can call in, so.
All right,
It'll be confirmed when the agenda comes out on Friday.
thank you. Any old business today? Any new business? May I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, guys, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Meeting is adjourned.
Jen, what the heck did you do? I didn't see anything about that on Facebook.
I didn't do anything. Kind of cooler.
Oh, okay, you get a long day?
Yeah.